Once she finished up at State and at Berkeley and at Merritt College, Gordon could have stayed in San Francisco and become the next gen of language poetry, gone to New York and fit instantly into the scene around St. Mark's, or even hightailed it to Iowa City for a fid and blended into the soft pastels of High Plains hybridity. But she did none of those things, heading in just the opposite direction to Japan, from whence she returned around the end of the 1990s with a properly cynical view of all that had gone before, and having incorporated multiple strains of Asian and South Asian culture into her completely American poetry, everything from belly dancing to Bollywood to the very curious pop culture of a nation that situates Godzilla right into the slot formerly reserved in the USA for Pecos Bill. Not that long after her return to the U.S., Nada was a co-founder of Flarf, which I will be happy to argue as the most significant mode of conceptual poetics and indeed the most dramatic and important transformation in poetry in the past 3 decades. Flarf incorporates everything we know about poetry, a healthy hatred of wage slavery, a sharp wit due, I would argue this also, in good part to the perfect pitch satirical ear of Nada, and a savvy sense that there is much more to Google sculpting than Google. All Flarf-based poetry demands a gut feel for the absolute pivot point between good and bad writing, a horizon that is perpetually in motion under constant renegotiation. It's a test of Nada Gordon's influence on her peers that so much humor in Flarf poetry sounds like the humor in her poetry, even before the advent of Flarf. Ditto her sense of excess as an essential building block, as if to purge poetry of its off-white institutional corridors, sound-absorbing office cube fabrics, and Febreze-like AWP airs. If you were to wake suddenly into the poetry of the future, it just might sound like this. Here, a bouquet of buzzing diamond snakes. The minded slinks in, swinging her panther fur, chakric inflammation. Don't let the dog out. The dog is oily and intimate and thirsty, her minaret. No fig jam for you, young lady. You've been a very bad albatross. I, of course, hear Coleridge totally in that last line. Nada Gordon is the author of many books, including Folly v. Imp, Are Not Our Lowing Heifers Sleeker Than Night-Swollen Mushrooms, Foreign Body, Scented Rushes, one of the best books ever, the brand new Vile Lilt, and with Gary Sullivan, the epistolary Swoon. She blogs at ululate.blogspot.com. The thought of what America would be like if Nada Gordon had a wide circulation, well, it surely keeps us awake.
I'm truly searing, dear. I lay my view upon a witty formalist where only wolves and deserted playthings live. I ask my solar plexus, is this a triangle within liquescence? Whenever the mangle shines behind clowns and the easterly word dancing over the roans, I'm truly scarlet, dear. My life only a piece of pageantry that needs words to describe a laciness. In this turbid gaiety, I shall wait for your light intercourse, a light which gives me your hunger. Above other lures, you make a wrestle of life. Why don't you love me, blankness? If I can sing a song about ligatures, there will be bitterness and butteriness among the flounces, harangues and power of love in a mist together in me. though it's only safety pins that accompany me in drawls. Discord, why don't you love me, blankness? Did the bemazement of love had deceived you? All these microcosms of songbirds make me sick. If and only if I can transpose your heat in you, I will look upon the scrawls and say, gush, for thy head bind us in plethora. Don't have anything but two heavens open to war. How long must I wait to sing in the radiator and relume? Only sheen gives ardor to a croon in this twinkly holomorph. I just got these sorrow pants on as an ASCII kitten in the lasso of tiresome attachment. It is a kind of vaginitis of the mind. We should tileize the doors to a meteorically barebacked toughness and then push through. He wallowed in the grandest blind spot, the minor howl of self. Chalk, fracture, web-like, tight. The mesmerizer is not punitively crimson. We were stone-like and licensed as retrievable doves, puckishly justifying vermilion songs as gadgets in the cool midnight. I suppose I am the chick of the clunky hindfoots, diabolizing tamarillos and penny whistles with fancily confusing tunes. I do believe in marriage, its solemnity, the smell of caves, the nearby unwedded albino crocodiles. Sebaceous watercolor hope stewed in a non-exempt golden junk, an ungual kinescope swooshing. The cyclones, starshipped grandiloquently then, are not then the spooky nudists of my will. Swallow's wings around a looming breast. Why want what one wants? Fake freedom of hummingbirds, universal music all over my hippie's headband husband. A hollow pianissimo. Marriage's iridescent spare ribs precedently retroflexed, the mysterious chatter of the lions, weary of men and their meretricious alphabets. We should glaze the doors. It, marriage, is Sumatran by finiteness. Incurvate as kismet, leathered by mistakes, tensely deep-seated, I give myself fair warning. The sub-treasuries of our minds husked heavenwards as hollow adagios. I was the cloven-footed schoolmarm, many-chambered droop-loss slave, unswayed by the will of those off-putting bodies, their ordinariness and liltingly quizzical bunts. The high-tech viridity of self-loving, the bird-hipped dinosaurs of marriage. We manfully research our skin. What is obliquely encrusted can sit mussy on the variations of these banal astonishments, the promise breakers. Of this I can sob masterfully, loftily, coherently soured, all mushy with sprained birdsong. I do believe in marriage, its amaranthine blubber. What can you hydraulically have? There is a mournful India in it, as a truth serum. How not to fear images of bodies' soapy riddles? Patchily again, I have the cactus of imagining, polymerizing the psychotropic seed time of a plain polarized organza. Unfrosted thrum, my husband's junk, harmfully collapsible, my husband's birthday filled with the sweetish dreamings of polysynthetic glands. Eternal reproach of rotated to soaked, eternal reproach of aromatic rust-colored bodies, eternal reproach of liquefied fear molecules. Eternal reproach of these non-modern verse sardonyx. They slaver on the looming irreality of the senorita, smashed as from a sheikah or hajj or creepy sinus. Hovering over his last bed. Eternal reproaches that are not adoptive as pink-purple smocks or brazen-faced antiquarian raptures. We should labialize the doors as unassailably unstirred ghost fish, the ghost in the apartment, shells of shapes, shells of sounds, shells of smells. Final rule. Can you actually have the maladjusted rhinal pup? Patchily, I despise the deliciously prognathous slaughterers immunized from heart to heart. Eternal reproach, the petty cactus of these graceful imaginings, its enchanted brunch, its gold-powered valence of 3. Non-columned, it is inexpressible, and it quilts.